Good Thursday, everyone. I'm Cyrus Webb, and welcome to Conversations Daily News. Glad you all could be with us. Well, we made it over the hump, and we're in the home stretch toward the weekend. But of course, you have your news headlines coming up on this Thursday with a message from my book, Words That Choose to Live By. And in today's Entertainment Spotlight, you'll be part of my conversation with author Emily Francis, discussing her brand new book, If You Only Knew, Letters from an Immigrant Teacher. Enjoy today's broadcast. For Conversation Daily News, I'm Cyrus Webb with your Thursday headlines. In national news, Trump accused of vast fraud in suit by New York Attorney General. New York Attorney General sued former President Donald Trump and his company for fraud on Wednesday, alleging they padded his net worth by billions of dollars by lying about the value of prized assets, including golf courses, hotels, and his homes at Trump Tower and Mar-a-Lago. The Attorney General dubbed it the art of the steal. James's lawsuit, filed in state court in New York, is the culmination of a 3-year civil investigation of Trump and the Trump Organization. Trump's 3 eldest children, Donald Jr., Ivanka, and Eric Trump, were also named as defendants, along with 2 longtime company executives. The lawsuit strikes at the core of what made Trump famous, taking a black light to the image of wealth and opulence he's embraced throughout his career, first as a real estate developer, then as a reality TV show host of The Apprentice and Celebrity Apprentice, and later as president. The Attorney General wants Trump and the other defendants to pay at least $250 million, which she said was the approximate worth of the benefits it got through fraudulent practices. The alleged scheme was intended to burnish Trump's billionaire image and the value of his properties, when doing so gave him an advantage, such as in obtaining favorable loan terms while playing down the value of assets at other times for tax purposes. This investigation revealed that Donald Trump engaged in years of illegal conduct to inflate his net worth, to deceive banks and the people of the great state of New York, the Attorney General said in a news conference on Wednesday. Claiming you have money that you do not have does not amount to the art of the deal. It is the art of the steal, she said. In a statement posted to his Truth Social platform, Trump called the lawsuit another witch hunt by a racist attorney general. In more national news, Biden says Russia's Ukraine abuses make your blood run cold. President Joe Biden declared at the United Nations on Wednesday that Russia has shamelessly violated the core tenets of the international body with its war in Ukraine, as he summoned nations around the globe to stand firm in backing the Ukrainian resistance. Delivering a forceful condemnation of Russia's 7-month invasion, Biden said reports of Russia abuses against civilians and its efforts to erase Ukraine and its culture should make your blood run cold. He referenced President Vladimir Putin's announcement Wednesday that he had ordered a partial mobilization of reservists, a deeply unpopular step that sparked protests in Russia. And Putin's new nuclear threats against Europe showed reckless disregard for Russia's responsibilities as a signer of the Treaty on the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons, Biden said. He also criticized Russia for scheduling sham referenda this week in a territory it has forcibly seized in Ukraine. In more national news, House passes election law overhaul in response to January 6th. The House has passed legislation to overhaul the rules for certifying the results of a presidential election as lawmakers accelerate their response to the January 6, 2021 insurrection and Donald Trump's failed attempt to remain in power. The bill, which is similar to bipartisan legislation moving through the Senate, would overhaul an arcane 1800s-era statute known as the Electoral Count Act that governs, along with the U.S. Constitution, how states and Congress certify electors and declare presidential election winners. While that process has long been routine and ceremonial, Trump and a group of his aides and lawyers unsuccessfully tried to exploit loopholes in the law in an attempt to overturn his defeat to Joe Biden in the 2020 election. In entertainment news, CMT announces 5 stars as their 2022 Artist of the Year. CMT will honor country stars Carly Pearce, Cody Johnson, Kane Brown, Luke Combs, and Walker Hayes as their 2022 Artist of the Year. The network will air its annual TV special on October 14th, featuring tributes by other artists. Pearce, Johnson, and Hayes are first-time Artists of the Year, while Brown and Combs come back for their 3rd time. And finally, in business news, stocks slump on Wall Street as Fed steps up inflation fight. Stocks closed lower Wednesday after the Fed Reserve made another big interest rate hike and sharply increased its outlook for how high it expects to raise rates in coming months. Short-term Treasury yields pushed further into multi-year highs after the central bank raised its benchmark rate by 3/4 of a point. The Fed also said it now expects that rate to be a full percentage point higher by the end of the year than it had predicted in June. We have got to get inflation behind us. Fed Chair Jerome Powell said during a press conference on Wednesday. "I wish there were a painless way to do that. There isn't." The S&P 500 fell 1.7% to its lowest level since mid-July after wavering between gains and losses as traders consider the impact of the Fed's update on interest rates, which have widespread effect on markets and the economy. The Dow Jones Industrial Average fell 1.7% after flipping between gains and losses. The Nasdaq Composite lost 1.8%. The major indexes are on pace for their fifth weekly loss in 6 weeks. Cyrus Webb, Conversations Daily News. It's on time for a message from my book, Words I Choose to Live By. Enjoy. Good Thursday, everyone. I'm Cyrus Webb, and welcome to Words I Choose to Live By. There can be no ripples in the water if no one chooses to jump in. Today, take the plunge. Who knows what you can achieve when you decide to stir things up? Have an amazing Thursday. Emily Francis is featured in today's Entertainment Spotlight right here on Conversation Daily News. For Conversation Daily News, I'm Cyrus Webb with Entertainment Spotlight. Author Emily Francis joined me on Conversations Live, the radio show, to talk about her brand new inspiring book, If You Only Knew, Letters from an Immigrant Teacher. Here's a bit of our conversation.
So I want to begin where we are now. One of the things I have the hardest time doing, Emily, is staying present. But your book officially is out this month. What has it been like for you to have sat with the book for the length of time that you did in writing it, and now to have it out for the world to read?
Yeah, that pandemic, something that happened, I hope some people remember the pandemic. Well, that pushed a lot of things aside, and finally, 3 years later, the book is out. So it's been an exciting moment, just being able to hold the book and, do the pre-reading of it and just admiring the book and all the work that went into it. And of course, holding on to that book and giving it to my family, that was just another highlight of my life, of course.
And that's interesting to hear you use that word, Emily, highlight, because I think anyone who reads If You Only Knew will see you had several of those throughout your journey, right? These highlights of things you've been able to achieve and milestones you've been able to reach. And I love that moment when you're going into your first class and you're being told this is your class. And you ask for that moment to stay in there just, by yourself. What has that been like for you to think of where you started and where you are today?
I read a book a while ago that talks about journeys, and I went away from using the word story. This is my story, because the story is like a one-time thing. The journeys are the events that happen, the highlights that happen in our lives. I mean, something happened, but it's still happening. Our stories are still being written, so it's more like a journey. So to me, everything that I tell in the book are experiences that have built up onto this moment, but this moment continues. So right now, like the highlights of holding the book, and then I cannot wait to hear about what students have to say once this book gets to their hands.
Cyrus Webb, Conversations Daily News. We thank you all for tuning into this edition of Conversations Daily News. Prepare to get on tomorrow to wrap up this week. Until then, I'm your host, Cyrus Webb, saying as always, enjoy your day, enjoy your life, enjoy your world. Thank you all for choosing Conversations Daily News today. Now let's go make it a great one.